to call to order the salary board for the 22nd of June. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Cross?
Present.
Commissioner Hersler?
Here.
Commissioner Edelberger? Controller Whitcomb?
Here.
Is there any public comment to come before the salary board? Hearing none, item number 4 is the approval of the minutes of June the 8th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve these minutes.
A second.
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 5 is the approval of salary board actions. Is there a motion to approve those actions?
I'll make a motion to approve those actions.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6, I would like to recognize the row officers, the judge, public defender, who would request the opportunity to be included in the vote for the compensation structure and new pay scales for the compensation structure. In the room, I have the clerk of courts, Denny Lebo, from the coroner's office, Matt Stoner, the register of wills, Lisa Grayson, prothonotary, Dave Buell. The sheriff's office has the sheriff, Ron Anderson. The recorder of deeds is Tammy Shear. Public defender's office is Linda Hollinger. Any others? None at this time. Item number 7. Is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure for non-bargaining county employees except for those offices requesting a separate vote that I had just mentioned?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I realize I guess we've been considering this for several weeks now. And I've given it an awful lot of thought over the weekend. And, we received some of the information that I requested as I, move forward in weighing this, in my own mind. And I have to say that, I have given it serious thought. But I do have some remaining questions. And I can go through some of those now, but one of the things that I think that we need to recognize first off, right off the bat, is that the number of employees who would be receiving compensation as a result of increase in compensation as a result of this action, the number has changed from 284 to 306 today. And I believe we just got that information, and I haven't really had an opportunity to look at that information. One of the things I do want to ask our solicitor is salaries are public information, right? So in other words, anybody is entitled to find out what somebody else makes, because we all work, all of our employees work for the public, they work for taxpayers. With respect to the different positions that have been created, and I know Gallagher produced this, did this study. I did page through some of the 200-page, guidelines with respect to how we should go about this. That was, I guess, we purchased as part of the study from Gallagher. I went through there, and they used different entities to determine what the pay scale would be for, different positions in terms of the survey that was conducted. And I'd like some more information relative to the background of those surveys. Do those surveys include, Cumberland, Dauphin, Perry, York, or do those surveys include the entire Northeast region? Do they take into consideration Philadelphia? And then one of the other things that I caught is some of these positions, are in individual departments, where essentially what this would do would bring everybody who has a certain title up to a certain minimum, so that everybody would get the same amount of money apparently regardless of when the employee started with us, whether they've been here for 20 years or whether they've been here for 2 months. And what I was thinking about over the weekend was, have we taken a look at educational background? In these positions, do they spell out what educational backgrounds are required? Do they spell out or take into consideration prior experience? Do they take into consideration, the job responsibility? Are all the jobs the same? Because that's essentially how this system we've decided that's before us today, is that everybody would be the same to set these minimum salaries. And then I know, and then the question I had was relative to the start date. In addition to that, I don't have an answer to it yet. I know Liz Bausch, our Director of Human Resources, she made a point that some of the folks that previously paid overtime are now going to be exempt employees, so that they would be exempt from receiving overtime. So the argument is made that we're going to be able to eliminate that overtime. And I did ask for some of the positions, could you give me a listing of the overtime expense that we had in 2014 for, all of these individuals? And wasn't able to get that information yet. So I'll just say that I respect the effort that's been put in on this already. But I would also respectfully suggest that we should all take some additional time to review this before we put it into place. I've supported and will continue to support fiscally responsible efforts to maintain the financial stability and fiscal stability of this county, to keep our county taxes as low as possible, the lowest of any county in the region, to deliver the important services that our people have come to expect and deserve, and to be fair to both our employees and our taxpayers when it comes to our system compensation. And that's why I joined in supporting several reforms, including this initiative to provide for an examination of our current compensation levels to make sure that we're being competitive in the region, to attract and retain more qualified employees. It's also why I support our income and merit-based pay system, along with consideration of cost of living adjustments to enable employee compensation to adjust with inflation. But I'm concerned by the product that's before us today. I think it's premature, and it does need some more evaluation, in my opinion.
There's a motion.
Excuse me, I'm still speaking, Madam Chair. I think we need to take a closer look at how some of the new salaries were established, and whether they do really fit the position in comparison to others in the mid-state. The product today before us, as I mentioned, has already been changed since we had a workshop meeting on Thursday. And we need to keep in mind that these 306 employees that would receive this raise, that represents about 1/4 of our county's entire workforce. The total number, as I said in the document today, is 306. And while I support the concept of bringing folks up to the minimum of what supposedly is being paid in the market, I've had the privilege of working in the public sector for a long time, more than 30 years in the Senate of Pennsylvania. I was a school board member, served in the school board in East Pennsboro as a township commissioner. I have never, ever seen, unless there was a promotion involved to a new position with additional responsibilities, I have never, ever seen the kind of huge pay raises that we're talking about for some of the people who would be the beneficiaries of the action that we're going to consider today. As I mentioned, of the 306 people, the best that I can tell, 97 will enjoy pay bumps of over $10,000 each. 32 would get pay raises of over $15,000 each. And 6 fortunate individuals would be so lucky as to receive a pay raise of over $20,000. Now, maybe this is what the market demands, maybe not. Because these raises would apply whether or not the individual was hired to the position that they've had for 20 years, or as I understand, whether they were hired, a couple months ago. At the very least, I believe we should acknowledge that if our pay system is so far out of whack that the pay inequity didn't just happen yesterday, And as such, a correction should be phased in over a period of time instead of all at once. Again, I do not oppose the effort to make sure our compensation system is competitive, but I want to make sure that we get it right. And I'm not convinced we're at that point yet with the product before us today. I would venture to suggest that there aren't too many of our constituents, the people who pay the taxes, the people we work for, who are getting $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 pay raises these days. So with that, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to table this before us. I would like us to go back to the drawing board. I do want to come forward. I'd like to see us come forward with a proposal. But I'm not convinced this is it at this point. I think there's a lot of unanswered questions.
There's a motion to table. Is there a second? Hearing none, the motion dies. There's a motion and a second on the table for item number 7 on the agenda, the approval of the compensation structure. Is there any further discussion or comments?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I would like to make just a few additional points. This is an annual cost, a new annual cost of over $600,000. And I know that the argument's been made that this was budgeted, in 2015. The fact is that at least $300,000 in additional cost is going to be placed on our new budget for 2016 as a result of this proposal. Now, I'm very proud of the fact and the things that we've done here at the county to get our fiscal house in order. In fact, because of the actions we've taken, and I don't always agree with these projections, but because of the actions we've taken, we've actually been able to, improve things in the county. We didn't end up in 2012 with as large as a projected structural deficit that was set because of some of the things, the steps we started to take. And the fact is, over the past 3 years, talking 13, 14, and 15, we have structurally balanced budgets in this county. All right? If you look at this again, and I'm not going to necessarily say that this is fact, but if you look at the line in this, okay, it shows we're going to have a structural budget deficit in 16. I don't necessarily believe that, but I know that this adds $300,000 to the cost of doing business in Cumberland County, again, for 25% of our employees in this county. So, thank you.
Are there any other comments? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Opposed. Well, this is the part
This
we're
is not
voting
time.
on? Okay, all right.
Item number 8 on the agenda is the approval of the decision band method salary range pay scale for non-bargaining county employees effective July 15. Is there a motion for the approval of DMB's salary range?
Sure.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Item number 9. While it appears certainly to the public that we are redoing this again, we are engaging now with the opportunity for the grow offices. As mentioned before, we will begin with those designated offices and their employees only. Clerk of Courts, you're more than welcome to either sit where you are or come up, whichever you would like, but however you want to handle it. We're going to take each one of these in 2 phases, and each one of these row offices, elected offices separately. For the first, Clerk of Courts, is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure effective 12 July for the Clerk of Courts?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The second part is the approval of the DMB salary range pay scale effective 12 July of this year. Is there a motion for that approval?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. For the coroner's office, Matt Stoner will be representing the coroner. We will take, again, each of these separately and in accordance with county code at this time for these particular offices. I want to make it very clear. that the row officer becomes a member of the salary board and then casts a vote. So for the coroner's office, is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure effective 12 July this year?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
On the second part, is there a motion for the approval of the DBM salary range pay scale effective 12 July for the coroner's office?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thanks, Matt. For the register of wills, Lisa Grayson is present. On the first, is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure effective the 12th of July this year?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I apologize for misspeaking the first time. I did not realize that you were doing individual offices. So you telling me if this does not pass to my office will not be included?
That's
Yeah.
correct. Well,
Well, if the salary is correct.
Not only would I reiterate the concerns that Commissioner Herzler had, because I had the same concerns, I just don't feel like we've been given adequate information with adequate time to evaluate. Like, right now, this is the first that I heard that I could actually vote against my office being included, and then I thought it was all or nothing for all of us. So,
I just
am I
wanted-
missing the memo on
well,
this?
I think the memo, if I can respectfully say, the memo has started probably as early as maybe 11, maybe 12, certainly in 13, to look at what I've kept in this desk for salary boards, the litany of grades and steps and extending them out at one period of time by one board and never fully addressing how best we can do this. So I would sort of comment that it has not been a couple of weeks. I know that I'm not going to use the word task force, but a responsible committee has been put forward and with representation from the row offices, please let me finish, to bring those concerns to everyone in the individual row offices that might be affected.
Okay, but on that point, my experience has been, well, that's something that we need to keep internal to the committee for the longest time. And so some of this information I am just getting, because until up to a few weeks ago, it was my understanding that things that were occurring in the committee stayed in the committee and they were not to be shared. And that information, that direction was changed not too long ago. So now I feel like I'm playing catch up. I mean, I understand the process has been going on, but I have not had someone in my office on that committee, and I have not been given the information that I believe I need to have to be able to adequately approve this. So it's not that I'm opposed to changing the measuring stick from longevity to performance or the restructuring the line people up. I don't have an issue with that philosophy. I just, Commissioner Hertzler brought up a lot of issues that I agree with his points on that, but I think we just need a little more time to do it right before we vote.
There is a motion and a second for the register of wills. Is there any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Opposed?
On the second part, for the approval of the DBM salary range, is there a motion for the approval?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
no. Opposed.
Thank you. The Pathonetary Dave Buell is present. If you'd like to come up, you may. Same two items. Is there a motion for the approval of compensation structure effective the 12th of July this year?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Commissioner. On the compensation structure, let me preface my remarks so it's all be concise. I'm going to oppose the measure today too, and echoing Ms. Grace and Commissioner Hertzler. While yes, this was set in motion a while ago, and I initially stated I'm in favor of the pay for performance, pay in favor of the concept, and obviously I want every county employee to receive a fair wage for a fair job. That's absolutely true. What I did say, clarify, it says when I get the data to determine how we determine fair market value, then I will evaluate whether I support this specific measure. The concept, I commend the commission, commend the committee, and I commend the concept. But again, the devil's in the details, and the 204 pages I did read, I got them on Friday. I got it Friday afternoon, but I did read it. It was a pretty sexy Father's Day, reading the decision, man, up to 204 pages on Sunday, but I did read it. I read all the documenting, supporting information. Specifically, a couple questions. This is an eye chart. Even with glasses at 50, there's no chance of me reading this, but I did blow up the part where what I'm referencing is the part that takes what they talk about in the study about the 6 categories of how they determine or not 6 categories, how they determine the pricing on 126. And so they broke out every personal classification for the new classifications in the order. And what it does is it takes the fair market value based on the tasks in the category. And if the category has multiple potential tasks, then it gives you 2 different line items. Specifically, the one I'm addressing, the 2 leadership positions which are known commonly as first deputy and second deputy, I think are miscategorized. I'll identify the categories in the second part, but the salary part, the minimum and the maximum and the median range, their fair market analysis of both, just take the first deputy that is a B31, which by category is grade B. The base salary that they took the fair market analysis is $48,000 with a cap of $58,000, and then if there is administrative duties, and again, it's hard to read, but administrative duties that have to do with policy and carrying out policy, the median was 57 to 59 with a high of base 62 to 69. Okay, so on my chart that we were given, the base salary that we were proposing for B31, which is that band, is a minimum of $19.62 an hour, which is a little less than $40,800. $40,800 a year. Okay, so my challenge, and again, this is why I think the concept is great, but this is fuzzy to me and it doesn't make any sense, and it needs to be clarified, especially when, again, we have to communicate it to staff and communicate it to a constituent base. You've given me the fair market analysis that says the salary is significantly higher for this B31. The market data says it's significantly higher. Yet you've given me an hourly rate that is significantly lower than what the minimum is. Can someone explain that to me?
I don't know what Dave's looking at. There's numerous. There was a salary data that was used from 19 different sources to determine the fair market value, and then those numbers are plotted against a regression analysis to determine the actual pay range for each grade. So just because you may find one data point that shows this pay range when you plot them on the line and discount it. So
It's not one data point, though, Nick. It's an average. It says a 25th average, a 50th average, and a 75th average, which is a minimum, maximum, and a middle range based. And then in 126, it talks about the averages of how they average the four different modules that the 4 different components that go into the assessment of competitive rates, the development of ongoing maintenance and pay structure, and determination of incremental pay for market contingencies and we don't have to solve this today for me, but I'm just telling you, this isn't clear to me. The concept is great, but the devil's in the details, and this doesn't make sense. So if you have 16 or 19 or 45 data points that average different benchmarks that are rates that are significantly higher than what we're proposing, then there is a determination of incremental pay for market contingencies and our working conditions. So are the working conditions in Cumberland County significantly favorable to the 19 data points that they took information for? Is that a bullet point that adds swag up or down to the number? I don't know. There's nothing in here that supports that. So all I'm saying is this doesn't make sense to me, and I can't support this out.
I believe there is a motion and there is a second. Is there any further discussion or any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I want to vote no.
Opposed?
On the second question, is there a motion for the approval of the DDM salary range pay scale effective the 12th of July? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes, Chairman, Mr. Commissioner. Again, the bands A, B, C, D, E, and F, our policy breaks down on page 132 of your, well, it's in the whole section based on different industries. So there's several different industries that cross over. I think there's like 8 that they cross over, but they do have one specifically for government. And the band B, and again, what I'm talking about is my first and my second deputies, as an example. Band B determines that employees making Band B decisions are limited in the decision how they perform in the process. They're asked to complete matrix chart from consensus data detailing statistics relative to the target population versus target neighborhoods. The duty would have operational steps that would have to be carried out, and the employee would decide how these steps would be completed. Well, we did complete the assessment with Brandon that talked about the different job titles, and from what I understand, this was submitted, we did meet 3 times to talk about this, and all 3 times we were in disagreement. We couldn't come to an agreement that was decided that, well, this band B is the way it should be, and I disagree. They are making decisions that have to do with policy. For instance, in band C, typically made by supervisor of employees, and band B doesn't make any reference to the supervisor of employees. Band C talks about they set the routines and their function, and they decide on the repertoire of processes appropriate to carry out the operational tasks. Well, I'm sure Casey and a lot of other deputies, they have a myriad of things that they have to determine how to get these things done. While civil law is finite, and we do follow the law this way, there are different ways to procedurally to do those. And I think you could argue that if you go to file in Montgomery County, they have a completely different procedure for filing this as we do here in Cumberland County. And what it takes for a first deputy and a second deputy is to work with those procedures and use as they say in this thing, the myriad in the repertoire to do the process. So again, going on page 132 with what I read in this process and then the supporting data that comes behind this, and I read all the categories, all the different industries, and they're all pretty much similar. Government is a little different because it deals with a little more of the hierarchy and the structure. But I would argue that this has to be rethought too, because there's no way second deputy in a B-22 has the same, and I will point out that our first and second deputies in the row offices will be the lowest band and the lowest part of responsibility in the department head matrix that in a department head meeting. And I would argue that this hasn't been looked at and this needs some more attention.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or comment? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No.
No.
Thank you. The Sheriff's Office. Joe Patterson?
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay. Is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure effective the 12th of July?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Item number 2, the approval of the DDM salary range pay scale. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Thank you. Recorder of Deeds is present. Tammy? Shear? Okay. Is there a motion for the approval of the compensation structure effective the 12th of July this year?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The second part of the question is there a motion for the DBM approval of the salary range pay scale effective the 12th of this year?
So
July.
moved.
Is there a second? Is there any further discussion for the recorder of deeds? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Item number G, thank you. The Public Defender's Office, is there a motion for the compensation structure effective the 12th of July of this year? Item Hollinger, is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
The second part of the question, is there a motion for the approval of the DBM salary range pay scale effective the 12th of July of this year? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Item number H, in the event that there were delays in any of the row officers attending, and there is not, has arrived that it's not already been identified, there is not a need for item number H. Is there any other business to come before the salary board? Kristen?
Yeah, I just want
Recognize
to,
the chief clerk.
thank you. I just want to thank all of our department heads and all of our elected officials for their cooperation in this effort. And even where there is remaining disagreement, we will continue to work through that. We have a 6-month moratorium on any changes, but during that 6 months, we will certainly keep looking at any particular situation that people feel is not correctly placed. This is something that is complicated, but we have, I think, made the vast majority of the situation to be placed on a solid footing. We do appreciate the patience and the support we got from our department heads and from our elected officials by and large in this effort, all the way from completing the revised job descriptions all the way up through the discussions. We appreciate the fact that our HR team and the compensation advisory group worked through these issues and came to what I think is a solid and well-supported, well-received issue that was going to place the county on a solid footing. We look to refine and improve the process like everything else we do as time goes by. So we thank you all for your efforts.
Is there any other business to come before the salary board? Hearing none, we are adjourned. If you can stand as you're able to join me in the pledge of allegiance. I stand with the pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to call over the Board of Commissioners meeting. 22nd of June. Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Cross?
Present.
Commissioner Mertler?
Here.
Commissioner Eichelberger?
Is there any public comment to come before the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none, item number 4 is the approval of the minutes of June 4th and June the 8th. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Any opposed? Item number 5. Is there a motion to approve the personnel transactions?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the personnel transactions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 6, a letter of support for the Central PA Conservancy grant application to the Department of Community and Economic Development. Is there a motion for the approval of that letter of support?
Second.
Is there any further discussion on the letter of support? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 7. Is there a motion for the approval of the county's volunteer separation plan for the additional eligibles that were presented during the workshop? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 8. Is there a motion for the approval of resolution 2015-14 budget adjustments that were presented during the workshop? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 9. Is there a motion for the approval of the cooperative agreement under Title 4D of the Social Security Act that was presented by the Controller's Office at the workshop?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 10. Is there a motion for approval of a letter of support for Cumberland County and Perry County to partner in the joint contract with pictometry?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 11. We have the contracts and grants. They are from A through D. Is there a motion to approve those contracts and grants? Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 12. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2015-15, approving the revised 911 telephone access plan for the residents of Cumberland County, the triennial plan, and the transmittal letter to the Director of PEMA, Richard J. Flynn? Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, just want to ask our solicitor, so the language in there with respect to the current fees is not a problem?
Well, I've sent an email to answer that.
I believe.
Were we all in receipt of that email?
I did receive, yeah, I'm just asking our solicitor whether or not there's a problem, or are we going to have to revisit this, if the legislature, would change the...
Well, if it sunsets, it'll definitely have to be revisited.
Well, no, I don't, well, that's the question. Do we have to...
I didn't look at that issue. Bob did. As a result of the meeting Friday, I did not look at it. The first issue.
Yeah. Well, he seemed to be suggesting that, there should be a problem, so we'll go with Bob's recommendation.
I will confirm.
And again, if in fact no funding is changed, if it just sunsets. So there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 13. Is there a motion for approval of resolution 2015-16, delegating limited authority to the Director of Facilities Management to approve certain change orders for county maintenance, repair, and construction projects that was reviewed during the workshop?
So,
Is there a second?
second, and just a clarification, this is for change orders that would be less than 7,500, is that?
Not to exceed. It's not to exceed.
Okay.
Yes. Not to exceed with a cumulative total of 30,000.
It's the same arrangement we had on the rehab project, just making that
In the right
project.
sort of resolution. Motion is second. Is there any further discussion or questions? All those in favor? Any opposed? Item number 14. Is there a motion to approve authorize advertising for the request for the proposal for the sale of 8 skilled nursing beds located at Claremont Nursing and Rehabilitation Center?
So, second.
There's a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. It was reported in the media that this was help us to erase the deficit, the yearly deficit. Fact of the matter is that Claremont does not have a deficit. We have a nice fund balance, and we've seen that for the past number of years. So I just want to make sure that that is clarified correctly. It certainly will help if we can sell these beds to provide for some additional financial stability in Claremont, and that's what we're all in favor of.
Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 15, is there a motion for the approval to award the contract for the Cumberland County 2015 Bridge Maintenance Repairs Project to the lowest reputable contractor, Lobar Associates, in the amount of $537,239.15. I also make that motion for the awarding of the contract to Lobar Associates. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
I have a question for the solicitor. In the past, I've typically abstained from this vote in regards to Lobar Associates because they are a family member. And that's been done primarily, that's been done frankly just for sake of appearances, because I receive I have no financial interest in that business. I've never received so much as a campaign contribution from them. And so there is no financial conflict there that would not be required to abstain. Do you have a recommendation on whether I should continue that practice or not?
I think you would continue that practice.
Okay, in that case, I will abstain.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
One abstention. Item number 16. And we'll take these separately. The approval of contract capital project request. Is there a motion for the CNRC design and creation of a resident garden that was presented during the workshop?
So,
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number B is public safety, the silent dispatch. Is there a motion for the capital project request?
So moved.
Is there a second?
second.
Is there any further discussion?
I just want to take a minute to compliment the work group that was involved in this, and also Brian Hamilton of our public safety staff. I think this is an important step forward in actually providing for improved communication service without the need for additional dispatchers. So I think it's a positive development. The only thing I want to point out is that while the estimated savings was to the public safety department, the actual estimated savings to the county is somewhere in the neighborhood of $800,000, and I'm talking about the recent reorganization down there. So this is about half of that savings that we're spending, but I think it's worth it, and I think it's going to save us dollars into the future. And again, I want to commend staff for their work on this, and I believe that, I think most of our police departments are going to take advantage of it, and I would bet that most of our ambulance and fire companies will as well.
I think they were just waiting on
Yeah.
us. Any further discussion or comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 17. Before you are the general disbursement transfer authorizations, A through E. Is there a motion for those transfer authorizations?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item number 18, I'd like to report an executive session held on the 18th of June this year at 10:10 in the morning for personnel issues. Item number 19, I'd like to acknowledge the receipt of the monthly reports from the coroner, the change of assessments for the month of May and for June. Is there any other business to come before the Board of Commissioners? Hearing none,